Alright, g'day folks. Hey, today I've got a lure to crimp up. I've got a game lure that I'm hoping to catch a marlin on, or at least a tuna or a kingfish sometime this season. Here we've got a nice little Stealth bullet head lure. Alright, so to crimp up my Stealth lure here, I'm going to have a few different items. First of all, I need a leader. So this is 400-pound leader. I've got it measured out to 2 meters. Now the reason I have it short is because I've got a wind-on leader on my game rod, and on a game rod you're allowed certain lengths of line for leaders and doubles. Under IGFA rules you're only allowed 12.19 meters, and I know that I've got 9 meters on my game fishing rod. That means if I add on another 2, I've got 11, and then there's a bit left over. Just bearing in mind that nylon stretches, and particularly if you're fighting a big fish, you could get upwards of half a metre of stretch in your line. You know, not a big deal for most of us, but should that be an award-winning fish and they decide to measure all your lines, you could potentially have your record broken. So you want to have everything legal to start with, and a little bit extra. As well as your nylon leader, you've got to have a hook. This is an 8-bar hook. I've chosen it because it sits very nicely in amongst this lure. It's not too big, not too small. You'll see once it's all rigged up that it looks very proportional, okay? I've got a plastic thimble. Now what those are used for is at the very top of your leader, you crimp in a thimble, and then your swivel can clip through that hole. Last but not least, I've got some heat shrink here. What I'm doing on this rig is it's going to be called a fixed hook rig. I do not want the hook swinging at all. By fixed I mean it's going to be locked in place in the skirt. It's just a personal preference. Every game fisherman has their own. So to start things off, this is going to be the top of my leader. I've threaded the nylon through the 2 crimps just to make it a loose loop. Then I'm going to get my thimble and place it inside that loop and tighten the whole lot up. Now crimping, there's right and wrong ways to do it. Basically you do not want to have it so that the crimp starts bending. That happens if you continually crimp along the whole line of the crimp. What you want to do, start at one end, use a table or something for this, don't try and use your hands. Push down and crimp it. Now you can see that we've got the one crimp in place. Next of all, go to the far end and do the same. Now to finish this crimp off, you want to turn the whole thing over and crimp it there. And looking at that, that's a nice crimp. The whole thing is looking extremely strong. Now while we've got this all loose on here, we don't actually know if that's going to sit right in the lure or not. It might be too far out the back, or it might be too far up into the skirt. So that's why I haven't crimped it just yet. What I want to do, I'll slide it all down, and it's very loosely sitting there, dangling. As you can see, that hook is just sitting out from the skirt. That's exactly where I want it. So under IGFA rules, the hook's not allowed to be exposed like out there. It can't be like that. But nor do I want it to be right up at the head of the skirt. I just want it dangling somewhere down near the end like that. So when you're crimping your hook, start with the crimp closest to the hook first of all. So we've crimped up the hook, and as it is we could actually troll this lure, but we still have this tag end. We've also got the final crimp to put in place, but looking at it you can see that this tag has got a bend in it. See how it's bent? And if I was to crimp that now, the whole hook would sit with a bend in it. That's not ideal. We want this hook to be sitting nice and straight. Now to counteract that, we've actually got to twist the line around each other. So you can hook it over there. Use a bench for this. You can use like a cleat on your kayak, or you can use a rod holder, anything that you can put the hook in. And wrap the two lines around each other. Don't just wrap it one around like this. That's not going to do anything, okay? You've got to wrap both lines around each other. So then slide your crimp over to lock it all in place. Okay, so if I was to let that go right now, it would untwist. So I've got to quickly crimp it together. So here we go, crimping that end. Crimp the far end. Now it's locked, we can take it off. Crimp the middle. And we're done. Hook, and this whole hook is sitting in a nice straight line, so it's very easy for us to use now. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to be a stiff hook rig, so I want to lock this hook in place. What I've got for that is just some heat shrink. Now you can use a bit of tape or anything to do this, but heat shrink makes a nice clean finish. So pull that all the way over, and I'm just going to use a lighter to shrink it down. So there we have it, the completed stiff hook rig. This lure is all nicely crimped up, very tidy. I've put it on a leader wheel here just to keep it nice and neat when it's in my tackle bag, and it's ready to go catch some fish. So hopefully I'll be showing you a movie of that sometime soon.